there was an interesting development in Minnesota on Friday. It may be good news. The lawsuit is Tincture versus Nome. This is a lawsuit filed by the ACLU and other civil rights organizations on behalf of 5 Minnesota protesters who were savagely beaten and arrested by ICE agents in Minneapolis back in December when Operation Metro Surge began. On Friday, a federal judge, Kate Menendez, she's a Biden appointee, she issued a preliminary injunction blocking ICE agents from using pepper spray on peaceful protesters. The injunction also bans them from arresting protesters and retaliating against them. This preliminary injunction was ordered after Judge Catherine Menendez, Biden appointee, ruled in Tincture v. Nome there was overwhelming evidence ICE agents have acted improperly, violating the First and Fourth Amendment rights of protesters. She said they've been doing this ever since ICE launched Operation Metro Surge in Minneapolis-St. Paul to target the Somali community. In her ruling, Judge Menendez wrote, quote, "Constitutional rights are not diminished during periods of chaotic unrest." Well, that's what Trump is banking on if he does, in fact, invoke the Insurrection Act. And the government is going to appeal Judge Menendez's ruling. They're accusing Judge Menendez of micromanaging the Department of Homeland Security and ICE. What, forcing ICE agents to obey the Constitution is micromanaging? In her ruling, Menendez wrote that since ICE launched Operation Metro Surge in December of last year, that would be in Minneapolis, St. Paul, 3,000 federal agents have engaged in what she described as an unprecedented immigration enforcement operation. We've never seen this before. One witness told her that Trump has turned Minneapolis into a war zone. Another described it as an occupation. The fear among ordinary people in Minneapolis and St. Paul, the fear, they say, is palpable. This is all in her ruling. So she issued a preliminary injunction. So what is a preliminary injunction? It is an order given by a judge before something goes to trial. And the preliminary injunction is based on the evidence presented and the likelihood of who would ultimately win. Preliminary injunction is the judge saying, I'm weighing all the evidence. There hasn't been a trial yet, but it looks like, in this case, the ACLU is going to win. So I'm going to issue a preliminary injunction forbidding ICE from throwing tear gas and arresting innocent protesters until this case, this trial, is resolved. And enough evidence was presented by the plaintiffs to convince this judge they would most likely prevail. So she ordered ICE not to retaliate against peaceful protesters, not to use crowd dispersal weapons like tear gas or pepper balls on peaceful protesters. And ICE agents, and this is really important because Renee Good was killed over this. ICE agents cannot stop or arrest drivers who are following them. It is not against the law to follow law enforcement. The defendants in the lawsuit are the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, and Kristi Noem. Lawyers for the government told the judge ICE agents had no choice but to make these arrests, to fire pepper spray at protesters, to arrest them for following them because these were angry mobs of people. But the judge wrote, American citizens monitoring the actions of law enforcement are not an angry mob. She accused the government of only giving her hearsay evidence that ICE agents were ever in any danger, but no actual proof. The judge wrote that there is a qualitative imbalance between the evidence offered by the plaintiffs and the evidence offered by the government, because the government, being Kristi Noem, they lie. They're liars. The judge said ICE was unable to provide a single video or any witnesses to prove that the ICE agents were ever confronted by an angry mob endangering their lives. She wrote, Judge Menendez wrote that while the plaintiffs presented several videos and 34 sworn affidavits signed under the penalty of perjury, The defense, the government, provided one declaration from a witness who refused to sign it for fear of being charged with perjury. See, they are liars. They are all liars. Kristi Noem, Tricia Yoho McLaughlin, Donald Trump. The judge said all the evidence provided by the government was hearsay without one single witness offering firsthand knowledge of the events. The judge ruled protesters are not just allowed to record the activities of ICE agents, they are also permitted to follow in their own cars ICE agents so long as it doesn't endanger civilians. ICE officers can't endanger an ICE officer or impede the ability of an ICE agent to perform their job. Again, the judge ruled it is not a crime to follow a police officer so long as you do it at a safe distance. She said ICE agents, police officers, cannot claim to have reasonable suspicion to make an arrest merely because the suspect is following the police officers. She wrote, "It is unconstitutional, a violation of a citizen's First Amendment rights. It is a violation of a citizen's First and Fourth Amendment rights to arrest someone because they're monitoring law enforcement," which is what Renee Good was doing. The judge said there was substantial evidence ICE agents pepper sprayed nonviolent students at Roosevelt High School. The judge wrote that innocent, peaceful observers were pepper sprayed by roving bands of ICE agents in cars with out-of-state license plates. One of those pepper sprayed was Minnesota State Representative Aisha Gomez, whose only crime that day was standing peacefully next to a crew from CBS News. The judge wrote ICE agents threw a grandmother face first to the ground, arresting her merely for asking, "Are you with ICE?" They don't wear badges, so she asked, who are you? Are you with ICE? One officer was heard on tape yelling in her face as she went down, "This is what you get for interfering." She wasn't interfering. Multiple witnesses and video clearly show the grandmother was merely asking a question. Are you with ICE? Reasonable question. Masked men with guns and no ID. Who are you? Are you with ICE? The grandmother, named Susan Tincher, was shackled for 5 hours while being held at the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building in downtown Minneapolis. Here she is, being thrown face first into the ground. It's a grandmother, a woman, as ICE agents arrest her. On the way to the jail, she said ICE agents threatened her with more pepper spray and then used cutters to remove her wedding ring. You're not allowed to wear a wedding ring when you're being detained. The judge ruled that ICE could not corroborate their claims that the grandmother was resisting arrest, ignoring verbal commands, or assaulting an ICE agent. We had to throw her to the ground because grandma was assaulting an ICE agent.